Venom here again, back with another best to last ranking. This one's going to be Fortitude. If you missed the strength or perception, I will link them down below. Another thing I want to mention, as well as if there's any certain skill you want to look that I talk about in the video today, all that will be timestamped for easy access there. Fortitude is kind of one of those slept-on skills when you look at it. And you may disagree because you're like, Machine Gunner is one of the best guns, if not the best in the game. Which is true, but when you look at a lot of the other skills, no one really talks about those. But what I'm going to try to do today is change your mind and show you the benefits of those perks. So make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your comments down below. I'm always interested to hear if you agree. If you don't agree, why? What makes you feel a certain way about that skill? That maybe something I missed, you know? So I'm always interested to hear. But let's jump into this. All right, Fortitude. In case you haven't seen the other ones, how this goes is I always put the 10 points into Fortitude. We look at that, just like we did with Strength as well as Perception. But we put those 10 points in, and then we max these skills out. So the first one is the Brawler. So learn martial arts and use fist to stun, knock down, disarm, ragdoll your opponent. And once you get 5 points in this, you're now a complete mixed martial artist and a registered lethal weapon. Knuckle weapons deal 50% more damage and have a higher chance to explode heads with punches. Killing blows grant 30 stamina, and then always find more knuckle parts. Alright, the big thing about this book, and I think over the years, bar brawling is a little less slept on than what it was, but it's just gotten better and better over the alphas. 10% more damage, kind of that mandatory first book of all. Sprinting power attacks can knock down opponents. Kind of a cool little niche thing. Gain 5% damage with each kill up to 15%. That's nice to have. Do extra damage to knock down opponents and stun opponents? Yes, it's nice. Especially if you're not being overran. That's very nice because you can, once you knock one down, you can pop him in the damn head or the legs and do more damage. Recover health in combat with every punch. Massive. I'll show you in a second just how massive this is. I'll kind of do a little tester just to show you. Attack and move faster after getting hit. This as well. These two kind of coincide to where you're going to attack and move faster once being hit. So it's almost challenging you to stand in there and take a beating, you know. Drinking beer no longer blurs your vision. The seventh curse. Unleash your inner chi/kai, I'm not sure, with the ancient martial arts technique. The seventh unarmed strike landed in a short time does 300% damage. Kind of cool. It's just kind of a killing blow every seventh shot is what it comes down to. But just why this is so big is getting damage back or getting health back after every hit, as well as being hit gains you attack speed. Now if we look at this is beer. Stamina regen 40%. That's huge. On top of the 30 you get per kill. Brawling damage 300%. That is beyond massive. And then stun resist 100%, meaning you can't be stunned. Now the duration is a minute. It'll be longer down below, but we'll talk about that perk when we get there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drink this, and I'm going to spawn in the 25 zombie Arlene's real quick. Alright, here they all are. We're going to go to our little killing corridor. Come on. Now watch this. I'm just going to stand here and just pop the shit out of all these zombies. Now, they can hit me, and that'll raise my speed. But as you can see, like, my health, even getting hit, is staying at 200%, and I'm just beating the hell out of them. Now, the only downfall to this is I've gotten some boo-boos, you know? Alright, I'm going to put Brawler in A tier. As you saw, it's extremely effective and very hard to die with the perk itself. The only reason I don't put it just straight up into S tier is it's very dependent on all the books. You know, you got to have the non-buzz book. You got to have a lot of other things kind of go your way. To be as beast as it actually is, relies on you getting hit, which is the only reason I drop it from S to A. Because you can still get bitten from zombies and then have infections and those sort of things, which kind of drops it for me. That being said, it's still so extremely versatile. Now, I will say, if you're playing on insane difficulty, it's going to be harder to kill the zombies. You're going to do a lot more damage. You got to have the beer. You got to have that sort of thing to give you that bigger percentage boost when dealing the damage. But they're also going to hit way, way harder, which is going to make it harder to justify using fists. Alright, next. Machine Gunner. Become a commando using assault rifles to slay your foes. And then you are now the ultimate machine gunner. Machine guns deal 50% more damage, 25% faster fire rate, and reload 30% faster. Commando adrenaline. Each shot scored with automatic weapons gives you 6 stamina. 5 more machine gun parts and 762 in loot. And then for the books themselves, 10% more damage as usual. Fully automatic mode does 1% more damage per hit. Less degradation, can craft a drum magazine. This is actually huge. You can find these as well, but this one's huge, and I'll show you why in a minute. Fully automatic fire is more accurate with each shot. That's very massive. Fully automatic mode has an increased chance to ragdoll enemies. Nice. And then hip fire accuracy is greatly increased. This helps a lot as well, because sometimes you're going to run into situations and you're pretty much just going to be backing up and firing. And this is so nice. And then lastly is each kill boosts your run speed by 20% for 20 seconds. Now, I don't know, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I don't know if we've seen one besides the spear to where their last, like, for completing the books actually has a purpose. The automatic weapon handbook has that purpose to complete the book, because this is huge. Your run speed by 20%. So if you're backwards firing, like I said, and you're getting those kills, once you run out of ammo, you can kind of take off for a minute, reload, and then go back to shooting, which is nice. Now, it is nice to mention why these are so like high tier compared to most weapons is the pipe machine gun. Yeah, sure, it may not be the best overall weapon, of course, but compared to other pipe guns, this thing is above and beyond. Nothing's close. So I'm going to just pop these guys down just to show you. We're going to pop in the 20 Feral Arlenes and just show you that you can take them out with just a pipe weapon, you know? You're just aiming at the head, just kind of pat, pat, tat, 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 tat. It's reloading quick, and then you're just going to town again. We got 3 more zombies, 4 more zombies. But 25 ferals. When you start to get all feral, that's more mid to especially late game. So just to show you that a pipe machine gun can kind of handle that without a lot of issues. Yeah, sure, like we have a pretty solid base setup, but you're going to in mid to late game anyway. Now, this upgrades from the pipe to the AK to the tactical assault rifle. And this is what I wanted to show you, like 120 rounds because of that drum magazine. This is what honestly puts it in a class of its own, because it starts out with 60 and then putting on that damn drum magazine just doubles it. So you're able to have a weapon that has 120 rounds. Now, I'll state, there is one gun I like even better than the machine guns. But that being said, still, you have to put it into S tier. This is the only weapon that right off the bat in the pipe machine gun is viable to use, you know. So you have your pipe machine guns, and then it just gets better and better and better to where this automatic firing is going to help you survive any situation you're put in. Next is lightning jabs. Pulverize your enemies with faster brawling strikes. Your fists are so fast that the enemies will quickly be overwhelmed by your relentless onslaught of punches. Punching is 25% faster. This is just like every other perk. They all have this perk. So if you haven't watched the other ones, I won't talk about it too much. It's a B for me. It's middle of the road. It's very good to have, as I've mentioned with the other weapons. Though you have to have a brawling perk, you know, for this to be relevant whatsoever. Once you get your brawling perk kind of set up, then yes, you definitely want this because you want that 25% faster punching. Alright, the Huntsman. Specialize in hunting your prey and harvesting more meat, bone, and leather. You are a true mountain man and let nothing go to waste. Harvest 100% more resources from animals using any blade, tool, and weapon. Honestly, pretty useless. Very useless. More meat, bone, and leather. Those are things you're going to come by throughout, especially meat. Like, that's never going to be an issue. The bones and leather, you can get those other ways. And again, it's never going to be something to where you're going to want to put 5 points into this before using any of these other skills. Alright, with that being said, we're putting that into F tier. It's just, even doing like a Fortitude only build, then that'd be one of the last ones you go into, if not the last perk you put points into. Alright, next is Well Insulated. Specialize in using a combination of clothing and natural resilience to weather in even the harshest environments. So you can now handle the severe weather and typically could care less what the weather conditions are. You'll never have more than severe stages of temperature status effects. Again, this is one of those extremely niche ones to where you're not like, this is F tier, but there is a small use for it. I've seen people, I've done it even before, to where you do a challenge to where, say, you're like desert locked or snow biome locked. This has a purpose especially if you're not getting the clothing you need. Otherwise, you're going to die. A regular standard game to where you're just playing the game regularly, you're not going to want to put points in this. But it has that niche use to where if you're doing a specialized kind of game, like I could see you putting points in this to help you survive for sure. Next skill is living off the land. Specialize in harvesting more crops using your hands or tools. Triple the harvest of wild or planted crops. This is underrated as all hell. This can sort your food situation out, your water situation out, and some resources out for the entire game. Unlike other games to where when you're farming, you don't have to do this every day. I think it's every 3 to 5 days, something along those lines. So you can line it up to where everything is grown. You can go harvest it all at once, and you can knock this out in like 10 minutes in game. Your crops will be growing again, and you'll start to collect a whole bunch of resources. This is even huge, can be used for money making. You have things like super corn, which, let me look up. Like, they've nerfed it big time when it comes to like how much they heal, but when you look at it, like, what is that, 40? Yeah, 40 per corn. And if you were to get the Bob's Boars place with Grace in it, and you grab those 9, you get a couple seeds, and then you get a couple seeds. Just over time, build more and more seeds, 3 from each plot, and you can really start building up a passive income without doing anything, to where that's something I don't think a lot of people kind of realize or recognize, Now, for living off the land, surprisingly, I'm going to go S. It's one of those that really doesn't have any downfalls. No justifications to move it down lower. Like I said, you don't have to do it every day. It just builds itself, and then you can get this passive food, water, income, all these things throughout, especially long playthroughs. This is something you're always going to be happy you took. Pain tolerance. So specialize in shrugging off blows, fighting through pain and staying in the fight when others would be down for the count. Iron Chin. You seem to thrive on pain and now possess an Iron Chin. Reduce HP loss by 25% and have no chance to get stunned. This is beyond big. It's kind of more based toward like harder difficulties, like insane difficulty. I'm just on regular difficulty right now to do this challenge, but I let a zombie hit me. And granted, don't forget I put points into other shit. But they did, with this on, did 9 damage. So 25%, you're looking at 36 damage compared to 9. That just shows you how big. Once you get to those harder difficulties, that number's going to skyrocket. So this is kind of a lifesaver. Now, if you're not playing on the hardest difficulty, probably not one I would immediately jump on, but not bad to have either. The chance to not get stunned, you don't realize how big that is until you accidentally get cornered by zombies. Because you get hit by 1 or 2, you get stunned, and then you're essentially dead most of the time. So that helps out a lot. Probably right behind Brawler in A. It's one of those very good perks that, especially playing, like I said, on the harder difficulties, could be considered S tier, When you're playing on adventure mode or something along those lines, it's not as necessary. Alright, we're already down to the recovery perks. So healing factor. Specialize in boosting your natural healing rates as long as you're not starving. You must have mutant genes from all that radiation. Gain 1 health every 5 seconds with natural healing. Critical injuries heal twice as fast. Now, this would be S tier right off the bat. The one thing that's going to make me drop this into A tier, because when you look at getting 1 health every 5 seconds, like, you get roughed up a little bit and have to run away, like, you're going to heal yourself without having to do anything. Self-healing will not work when you are out of food or water. So that's where it drops a tier for me, just because it is dependent on food and the water, which makes living off the land even more viable. So I would even put this in front of the Brawler, because it's going to be one of those things over time, who knows, like depending on how much ammo you get, even if you're in a fortified only build, you may be using just machine gunner and things like that, to where this is always useful, no matter the build. Getting that healing over time really comes in very useful. Iron Gut. So specialize in gastrointestinal health to use less calorie and gain more benefits from food. Use less oxygen while diving. The less oxygen while diving is so dang niche. Like, There's very, very few instances this ever will come in. Like, the only time you have to go in the water, honestly, that deep, like that random ass treasure map or that random ass care package. That being said, it's like less than 1% of the time that ever happens. Now, iron gut. You have an iron gut and could probably eat glass and survive. Reduce food and water loss from physical exertion by 25%. This is beyond huge. Anybody who especially is playing a long game that's kind of done the mining and wood cutting over time knows how big the physical exertion is, especially towards your water and food. It kills it. So reducing that by 25% helps so much. Hold your breath for 180 seconds? Okay. But chance of dysentery is reduced by 5%. A little helpful. This is where this becomes top tier for me. The buffs from consumables last 50% longer. So if we just look at some of the consumables, to look at these just to begin with, like something as random as Grandpa's Awesome Sauce, Sugar Butts, this is going to give you that time needed. They're 3 minutes usually, so 50% more is going to give you another extra minute and 50. This really helps when you're doing trade runs to where you're popping to more than one trader just to sell your entire inventory plus like a full load on your motorcycle or 4x4 along with going to buy ammo and other resources. This helps with Grandpa's Moonshine, the Learning Elixir, usually a duration of 6, so it'd go to 9 minutes. You could pop 2 of those on during Horde Night and have complete XP gain throughout the entire Horde Night. That's not even the best part, because when you look at the candies, that's where this thing starts to become insane. Well, even with the fort bites and things like that, 50% damage mitigation is going to be buffed even longer. The range damage buffed even longer. If you're searching buildings, you can line up quite a few buildings, popping eye candy like mid to late game, and just hit, say, all the safes, all the cop cars you want all at once, and not have to rush as much. Jailbreaker, the Skull Crusher and Rockbuster may be the best ones. If you're doing one of those giant mine harvests, you're just going to get more resources over time. And then the melee damage is crucial with that recog. I would put Iron Gut up into S tier. These could be flip-flopped either way, though, because you look at that 25% reduced food and water loss from exertion, physical exertion, that alone is huge. But when you start adding legit 3 more minutes to buffs, that's where this becomes so damn helpful. Finish it out as Rule 1 cardio. It says, train your body in the number 1 tactic against the zombie menace, running away from them. So a triathlete. Increase stamina regen by 30% while sprinting. This is nice. Kind of like a B, C, D tier. You gotta think like being able to run a little bit longer and get stamina back is always cool. Now the stamina regen isn't huge because of zombies themselves and running away from them. It's a tiny bit helpful, but where that comes into use is legit from having to run your ass to tier quest to back to the trader and everywhere else in between. So knocking out just a few tier 1 quests to get your bicycle kind of eliminates that to an extent to where it's not as useful. And then once you start to get the mini bike and motorcycle, then that kind of gets eliminated all the way. So I would put that D tier. I could see where you'd use it, even maybe C. But then again, over time, it's going to become kind of useless. So that right there will wrap up the list itself. Now, if I had to rank them from 1 to 10, number 1 skill, I'm going to keep as machine gunner. Big reason here is you look at just the pipe weapons itself, which you can get pretty much essentially right off the bat, day 1. You have an overpowered gun, and it just gets better and better from there. AK is early game, Mid game, you have your assault rifle, and then your M60, and with the drum magazine, it just becomes so overpowered that you can't really put it anywhere but S. Number 2, it's going to be living off the land for the reasons I've mentioned earlier. You have a passive source of food, a passive source of water, and a passive source of income that's only going to grow over time, and you have to spend little to no time on it to get that. Number 3, Iron Gut. Getting that 25% less physical exertion while mining is just huge. It saves your water, it saves your food, it helps out a ton. But then getting the buffs on top of that to where it essentially can raise anything from 6 minutes to 9 minutes on all consumables, it can't be passed up. Number 4, healing factor. 1 heal every 5 seconds just makes that kind of a top tier skill in itself to where if it didn't consume food and water so fast, this would be up there in the S tier for sure. Brawler, number 5. Such an underrated weapon. So good. so powerful, and the fact that you can sit there and just trade blows and heal yourself over time with the books makes this thing so elite. It's just having to deal with the broken ankies and all that. Number 6 is pain tolerance. When you're playing on that insane difficulty, the reduced HP loss by 25% is beyond big. And then the chance to never get stunned, like I said earlier, you really never realize how big that is until you get surrounded. Because once you get surrounded, there's almost like 100% chance you're getting stunned at least once multiple zombies are popping you. Number 7, lightning hands. Just an overall good perk. I'm always going to kind of put these ones in B tiers since they're so dependent on you raising, say, the knuckles or the clubs or the spears, But once you have those up, or you have even some points into them, this is almost a must. Just to be able to swing 25% faster is always so helpful. Number 8, well insulated. So this one, like I talked about, just is a very niche skill to where there can be no use to it whatsoever, kind of in a normal playthrough, or a very minimal use to it in a normal playthrough. Or if you're doing kind of a tier or doing a locked series to where you're only playing in the desert or the snow biome, this becomes so big to where you can actually justify putting points into it, because otherwise you could be dying. Number 9, Rule 1 cardio. This one's nice right off the bat and increases the stamina regen by 30% when sprinting. So right off the bat is very useful. But once you start to get a bicycle, which is just after the tier 1 skills, and then you get that mini bike, it's not necessary to where you're not going to want to waste your points in that. And lastly, and certainly least, is the Huntsman. Just specializing in getting more meat, bone, and leather is just something that's never going to be utilized enough to justify putting points into it itself. But that'll wrap up our tier list right there. So let me know what you think in the comments. Tomorrow I'll be ranking the agility skills from best to last. If you haven't caught any of the other tier list rankings, you can catch those below down in the description. But thank you for checking it out. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.